Welcome to this information video by Workpermit.com. With me here is Sanwar Ali, one of Workpermit.com's own consultants, and he's here to shed some light over recent changes on visas, applications, and other reforms in the UK. Hello Sanwar, thank you very much for coming.
Hello.
Do you have any comments about the suspensions of UK holiday maker visas for people from Bangladesh?
Well, I think that it's somewhat unfortunate. I think it's a bit unfair. What you have is a situation where, young people from Bangladesh, they want to be able to benefit from this visa, which they should be able to do. They're Commonwealth citizens. They should be able to come to the UK and live and work in the UK for 2 years, holiday half the time. Unfortunately, they're being deprived of this because what's happened is that the British government, the visa section, doesn't have enough resources to deal with the number of applications being made. This, to a certain extent, was inevitable. I think the government was encouraging people to apply for this visa. The actual demand, as should have been expected, has been very great, and they can't cope. I very much hope that this suspension of the working holiday visa for Bangladeshis will not be for too long. Hopefully, within 6 months, they'll deal with it. They'll put in the new resources necessary, and they will deal with with the lack of resources, so the Bangladeshis will then be able to apply for working holiday visas. Traditionally, Bangladeshis haven't applied, because traditionally in the past, until about 1 or 2 years ago, it was actually mainly Canadians and Australians who applied for the working holiday visa, not many Bangladeshis. But since the government has been encouraging people to apply for this visa, there's been far more Bangladeshis and nationals from many other Commonwealth countries who did not traditionally apply for visa applying. Again, I hope that this problem will be resolved very soon.
Well, does it still remain a good way to enter the UK?
Yes, if you are a Commonwealth citizen, that could be an excellent way of coming to the UK for up to 2 years. Half the time you're supposed to be on holiday, half the time you're supposed to be working. If you come to the UK, you are limited to relatively low-level jobs. In effect, you're not supposed to pursue a career. But if you want to come to the UK, spend 2 years in the UK, then it's an excellent way of doing it. It is a very, very popular category. For example, in Bangladesh, it's been so popular that the visa section hasn't been able to cope. The visa section has suspended working holiday maker visa applications in Bangladesh because of the huge demand. It's a very good way of living and working in the UK for 2 years, but it is restricted to Commonwealth citizens. You have to be from a country that is a member of the British Commonwealth.
So what do you think about the new restrictions on overseas doctors and dentists working in the UK?
Well, again, this was not wholly unexpected. There has been pressure on Western governments to stop taking doctors and dentists from poorer countries around the world. There have been problems in poorer countries because there has been a brain drain of doctors and other medical professionals going to the West. So what's been happening in the meantime is that Western governments have been taking note of this, and also Western governments have been encouraging more people locally to actually become doctors and dentists and become trained in other medical areas, so that actually the UK has less need for people from overseas. So it's not wholly unexpected. They have reduced their need for people from overseas. Even though the category is training, in reality, that's been affected. In reality, these people are working as well as training, so that's changing now. It's going to be much more difficult. What's going to happen is that you are going to have to apply for a work permit in most cases. If you want to apply for someone to work in the hospital, then it'll come under the work permit scheme far more than in the past. The work permit scheme is obviously much more difficult to come under than the training scheme. There's in effect going to be much fewer opportunities for overseas doctors to go to the UK and stay for some years. I do think that what's happened is unfair to those doctors who are already in the UK. They came to the UK having certain expectations to remain for some years. They've bought property, say, they've got their children at school, and to suddenly find that it's much more difficult to stay in the UK, I do think is a bit unfair. But again, I have to also say perhaps it wasn't totally unexpected.
But to what extent will these restrictions actually affect these people working in these categories of jobs?
I think that if you want to work in the UK, and if there is a shortage, there's bound to be shortages in some areas, then you should find an employer first and get the employer to apply for a work permit. In the UK, unlike the US, for example, there is no quota on most work permit type applications. There is a possibility of unlimited number of work permits being granted. So if the particular hospital, if you want to be a doctor, if you want to work in a particular hospital and there's a shortage, then you can still come under the work permit scheme. I suggest that it's worth considering. And also there is, in some cases, there is a transitional period where in some cases it's easier getting a work permit to employ certain doctors. So it's not all bad news in that the work permit scheme could still be relevant. Also, I think many doctors should consider HSMP, Highly Skilled Migrant Programme. The Highly Skilled Migrant Programme also has the big advantage that you can work for anyone. You're not restricted so much. Work permit, the problem with work permit is they're restricted to one employer. So that's what I'd say is that it's not completely closed. There are some options for many people to remain in the UK either under work permit scheme or HSMP.
So why has there been such a reduction in the number of work permits available under the sector-based scheme?
Well, since 1st May 2004, when the new EU countries joined, the new nationals from new EU countries have been able to work freely in the UK without needing a work permit. They could do any sort of work in the UK. No quota, unlimited numbers could come to, indeed can come to the UK and work. Quite a number of these people have been filling jobs in the hospitality and to some extent the food processing sector. There have been hundreds of thousands of people from countries such as Latvia, Lithuania, Poland, Czech Republic and so forth coming to the UK and doing many of these jobs in the hospitality and food processing sector. These sectors, for example, hospitality is mainly working in bars, hotels, pubs, restaurants, that sort of thing. Food processing mainly dealing with processing of fish and chicken, meat products and so on. Those sort of jobs have to a large extent been filled by people from the new EU countries, the former Eastern Bloc countries. So there's less need for the sector-based scheme work permits because these people are doing those jobs. So the government has reduced the number of work permits available from 15,000 now to 1,840. It's hardly surprising.
So what benefits do you think there will be following the change in payment processing for UK work permits and visas?
Well, there have been problems in payment processing. You have had situations where you've sent applications off to the Home Office, for example, and the applications come back. Even though you've correctly filled in the credit card details on the form, or you've made the right payment, the applications come back. I think there have been a lot of problems caused because of that. If you haven't got your application in on time, that can have unfortunate repercussions. So if the change means that there are fewer of these sorts of problems, then I very much welcome it. I very much hope that this will see significant improvement in service. We will see what happens exactly. The applications that are made by people, they're very important to. In many cases, there's deadlines to meet, and payment processing delays can cause very big problems for many people. One thing I would say about payment processing is that, generally speaking, it is better to pay by card. There is a problem, though. Sometimes the card transaction is declined, but if you want your application dealt with more quickly, because card transactions clear immediately rather than cheques, then generally speaking, I would pay by card when paying for a particular government fee at the Home Office. If it's a work permit, HSMP, whatever, at the Home Office, I would, generally speaking, pay by card.
Well, thank you very much for your time, Mr. Ali.
Thank you for inviting me.
For any more questions or for any other information you might seek on these issues, please feel free to browse the website Workpermit.com, and stay tuned. There will be more information to follow in the next coming weeks and months. I'm Jürgen Johansson.